Hey everyone, it's Matt along with Goo. Today, it's Orange Day. And now we're going to talk about Erik, our blue haired son, who honestly is a sneaky unit just like himself. And don't miss him out, so stay tuned. Alright, so Erik is our second hero. Um, in all honesty, he is not quite as strong as Veronica, still a very strong unit. His leadership effect has increased Crackle physical damage by 20%. We are lacking a lot of physical damage with Crackle. It is a pretty good leadership effect. It will grow in importance later. Right now, it is still pretty, but I promise we'll see a few more Crackle physical damage relatively soon. And when it does, Erik will become even better. But honestly, right now, his leadership is on like an A level. It will rise to an A plus to even maybe an S minus level uh, in a little bit here. His skills are very unique. His first skill is Shadow Step, which increases his dodge rate. And depending on how you want to use him, you can either use that or Shinigami's Blade, which is basically his high poison and paralyze. And they have insanely high probability, and if you get enough of his awakening, it actually gets even higher. Depending on how you want to use him early in the round, you can either make his dodge rate really, really high for a couple of turns, or if you notice an enemy that is weak to either poison or paralyze, or better yet, both, you could take him completely out of the match. He is going to be a very, very good arena unit of top end guild wars unit, or at least the way that I like to try and play those style things, where he is a going to be the initiate of what we would call a control team. Um, and so, from a PVE standpoint, hmm, he's probably the weakest out of all of them, even though he is a very, very strong attacker. And finally, his last one, Ice Rush Dance, which is where he gets Crackle, does four times 70% physical damage to all enemies. And he is going to be one of the best units for the big boss that's in the Dragon Quest XI. And also, it's going to be very useful down the line for PvE in that regards for the big boss battles, just because of the ability that he could hit the area 12 times, which will take down barriers, etc., etc. So he is a very top tier damage dealer in that regards. On top of his absolutely insane attack scores that he can reach, along with his agility. His first awakening, he gets a significant increase in movement and dodge percentage for 3 turns, for the first 3 turns of the match, which is great for arena. And also in Guild Wars, or I'm going to call it Guild Wars. We'll kind of figure out the official name or how we want to talk about it. And you've got to say exactly what we want to say and call it. Let me know. It's a little less important, but still, in all honesty, you're going to be focusing on the short, quick battles, anyways. And so this is where he's going to shine. Has Frizz and Sizz resistance. The third skill. The third skill. If you poison an enemy, or if you are poisoned, um, through some enemy's counter with your debuffs, you can chase with the Blade of God of Death, which is a very high attack, on top of it and do extra damage. So, working with that, it is an absolutely insane skill that it does very, very, makes him very, very powerful. It gives him Ice Rush stats 5% and his ultimate MP minus 10%, which is about as nice as Veronica's. It's a great skill for him. His turn 3 does absolutely insane damage, especially if they're weak to ice, or if you could get the critical with Shinigami's Blade. You're talking some absolute death dealing. Especially on top of it, if you paralyze, then you get triple the damage with everything that goes on. And you could just see how it really piles up. Lastly, the last one is Ice Rust 5, Ultimate MP minus 10%, and the Poison and Mahi, which is Paralyzed, success rate at 10%. This is another wonderful there. It makes him really powerful at 5, but that's very, very expensive. Honestly, I really, really, really would love to see him at 5 hearts, even though I know Sorrow, who's not really part of the Dragon Quest XI but came out at the same time, is theoretically should be released at the same time. Um, but he might get a little bit delayed, so we'll kind of see what I plan on doing. But if I get really lucky, Erik is the one that I really, really want, just because he can do things and make battles do what I want to do. And I think that is going to be incredibly important overall. His level 130 stats, and yes, now in Japan we have 130, instead of 120. You can see his HP and defense are relatively low, and I mean, they look good, but they're a little bit lower than normal, so he does play on the edge of death with his dodge rate, very similar to Elena. But his attack is absolutely insane at 567, and his agility is incredibly high at 505. Remember, his movement is only 2, but with his First Awakening, it gives him 2 more, plus his high dodge, which gives him a movement of 4 for the first 3 turns, which is all you need for movement, anyways. And therefore, he can really go and just go out and get everybody through that. And remember, his skills have a range of 3, and really, even though this is just a range of 1, it reaches out for 3. So that 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 3 is 7. And so in an arena, he can hit pretty much anywhere he really needs to if you want him to. So all in all, he is a very quick, annoying unit. And the faster you make him, the better he is for the evasion as well. So all in all, just I really, really, really enjoy his kit. And I'm a little outside of the norm here, so I'm going to have a little bit of the rose colored glasses, or maybe it's orange. But I really like the kit. His preferred weapon is either going to be the stray metal sword or the papinka knife, which is Dai's weapon. Depends on how you're going to build him. He has his own weapon, but in all honesty, I really enjoy the HP and attack power and the overall physical power plus 4%. It really mends itself really, really well. So if you are going to be using Dai, who's a pretty good unit as well, a lot of people would put them equal. I think Erik's above Dai only because of how I like to do battles, especially when I was dealing with like Epic 7. I was the control guy in my guild in the Guild Wars. And so that's how I like to play battles, where I like to control units if I can. It's not as powerful as in Tact, but Erik is the first unit that really allows it to be played out like that. And if you are going to use the papinka knife, you're going to look for physical power only, not die skills, HP and attack. But if you got the stray metal sword, that's also the things that you're going to be looking for anyways. So those are the 2 really best ones for him to be using. His hero skill, Kamiwaza, is basically his own inner awakening. Use it on turn 2. It triples his attack power effect for 2 turns. And overall, what you're going to see is just an absolute insanity turn 3 for him with his dodge. You might only have him attack once in arena, and that attack is going to be death-defying. You can also use that for the big boss battles to do absolute insane damage. So you're going to kind of play around with Erik, and he can do a lot. Once again, another reason why I consider him a great character. This is just a very useful skill overall in my mind for what needs to be done, etc. If you really want to get crazy, instead of using the true best ones. If you're going to go all out, use Elena's weapon with the higher crit rate as well, and just go critical crazy and hope for absolute luck on turn 3, and you can just see him absolutely melt units away. He is kind of the physical potential form of Jessica in that regards, with being able to triple his attack power, etc., etc. Okay, so we're going to do pros, cons, and pull here. This is a very well and very highly awakened Erik is an absolute uh, scary unit to face in um, at all along an arena guild wars, and he has the ability to put absolutely debilitating effects on your party with both paralyze and poison, and he can make a party even if the CP is way out of whack with the same amount of units that you would actually lose the battle because he will dodge and swipe everything away. You're going to want to use magic against him, but be careful. Magic seems to be usually are very weak to that type, and he could kill them in one hit as well if he is strong enough. So it is with his speed, his range, and that he does put a lot of fear into units for the arena. That special ability can make him absolutely insane for turn 3. If you see him cast it, don't let him attack for that one, because he will just wipe a unit off the map. And remember, he can move 4 for the first 3 turns, which is all you need, and he has just an absolute increased dodge rate as well. His cons, low defensive power. So you're going to use his low defensive power for his evasion. So he is the RNG guy, just like Elena. And personally, I feel he's even more RNG horrible against than Elena is. And for Guild Wars defense, at least in most of the games that I play, having RNG dependent units is usually the scariest ones to go attack. They may not always be the strongest, but you can really get destroyed by just having one bad roll against you with those type of teams. And so once again, very interesting unit, especially with Guild Wars coming down the line. I mean, very, very soon. Along with that, Erik seems to be designed for that type of stuff. And so I'm there. I see him as a great counter to a lot of the units that are going to be coming out relatively soon. And units. So he's going to be one of those that people are going to be using not like 100% of the time, even though I really might myself if I could get enough of him. But something that is really, really interesting and something that I think will play very well in defense where people won't understand or have the power of control parties to be careful against in defense. And so this is where I think he shines. I think he's underrated in Japan. And so this is kind of my sneak preview, especially if Sorrow is not coming to us, because we are a little bit earlier than the 1.5 year anniversary, but we may get the anniversary early as well, depending on how everything goes. So for most, I would say you can skip. It's not that important to have Erik. I am hoping to get him because I want to play with him. I want to kind of create my own controlled defensive team that will be an absolute bear to beat. So I'm going to cover Erik's summonable unit and also Veronica's because I did miss it. The first one is Stump Chump, and this is directly from Erik's. Stump Chump is actually another wonderful unit, especially if we ever are limited by only A units. This is another potential, not as controlling as Erik, but it's a wonderful unit. And another reason I kind of want to pull on the banner too is I wouldn't mind having a couple of Stump Chumps, just because I really do like I like control. I like having the ability to control when I have time to play longer matches. They really can eliminate some strengths of other units, especially when they're weak to them. First one is basically blunt. Greatly reduces attack power for 3 turns to one enemy. This is great. Uh, just to cast on, like, if Sorrow comes out, or even on Erik. It's a great way to kind of limit his absolute insanity. Um, and that's kind of, not kind of, that's really useful. Next one is Larry Hama, which is a large line of sleep. So he can sleep enemies as well. And on his third and fifth awakening, he gets 10% extra success on sleep. So that gets him to a little bit either at a coin flip or above a coin flip for sleeping. So if you've got 3 enemies and they're even slightly weak to that, he will have a really good chance of putting them to sleep. And the last one is Demon Ball, which has a large range and inflicts SAM spell damage on one enemy. His stats, he doesn't really have great stats. He's slow. His HP and defense are on the low end. His wisdom's is a little bit better than above average for the 120, but he's not designed for pure damage. He's designed for control. So suggestions would be actually add buffing or healing, but if you want to add a spell skill, add something other than Zam. Uh, Personally, I've got a few mid heals. He might go on my team for the next time we get an A unit that Stump Chump will be ready for. If that is the case, then I will give him mid heal personally, but another buff skill or something would also work. Remember, he is going to be very slow, so he will be able to kind of act to counter some of the other things that have gone on by that time. So you will have to play with that. And his leadership has increased spell power of nature by 10%, which is not too bad. But it's an A unit. You're only going to really use this for arena when you're only allowed A units or worse at that point. Overall, though, I actually do like Stump Chump. Erik, theoretically, I would say is the weakest of the units in the pure 11 stage, but I think he actually has the most going for him just because of the way that I want to play and test things out. The last one here is Jarvis for Veronica. A very interesting unit. Slightly worse than Stump Chump, but his leadership effect is increased dragon breath damage by 10%. And he does have some pretty nice overall things going on for him. His HP and defense for an A unit's absolutely bonkers. And with his ability to put enemies to sleep, and his high durability, it's absolutely insane. His breath gets very strong at the third and fifth ability, and he also on the third one gets a very high crackle breath increase as well. So even when you add a breath skill, what the top one that I have is actually adding a straight line breath skill for crackle because it's got so much more damage. But then you can also add frizz and sizz on top of it as well if you want for different elemental coverage. He could use all three really well. His big weaknesses. His first awakening gives 1.5x breath for first turn, but his agility and his movement are just not a great combination. I'd almost rather seen his agility be very slow, so then at least enemies would come close. You can come up there and try to melt them as best you can, but instead that doesn't happen. As I say, the other big thing is his MP really doesn't sustain for super long battles, but for an A unit, you're probably only going to be using him for arena, and it's definitely enough for what you need him for. And breath goes based on level. And as I say, if you're going for A units, Jarvis is not a horrible person to be going for because I do think he has some pretty good damage abilities as well. And for people I know a lot of people are going to be going hard for Veronica. Can't blame them. And he is a pretty top tier unit for that. So I hope everybody enjoyed this second round, even though I did forget to talk about Jarvis. I hope you guys are enjoying. I am going to also try to make up another video earlier in the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday time frame for Santa Elena, and then I will be making a Sorrow video as well. So hopefully, I'll have 4 videos out within a week, especially with my absolutely insane schedule right now. That might be a challenge, but that is my goal out to you guys. If you guys have any questions, or if I, you know, do get a little busy again and you need to add, you can ask here. You can also go to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Madgarou, and ask questions. I do get quite a few people asking me questions about Dragon Quest Tactics. Even when I'm not playing it, please ask me questions there. I'm very happy to answer them. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy. Good luck and goodbye.